Warm greetings from the Chennai Center for China Studies. It's great to meet you all in another Chennai Center for China Studies institutional dialogue on the topic Understanding China's Global Security Initiative and Global Development Initiative. History and tradition have always played an influential role in defining the domestic and foreign policies of the People's Republic of China. This was particularly evident in the ambitious and colossal the Belt and Road Initiative. President Xi Jinping unveiled the Beijing's new international security project during the Boao Forum for Asia in late April 2022. In late April, and the Global Security Initiative was presented amid heightened international tensions following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Just 6 months earlier, Xi announced a similar broad format, the Global Development Initiative, by video link in his annual address to the United Nations General Assembly. GDI is, according to Xi, serve as China's blueprint for global economic development and international development cooperation. Upon carefully reading President Xi's speech, even the usage of Chinese or Asian proverbs such as climb the hill together and go down the ravine together gives an indication of GSI's ambition to include, if not the entire world, but the Asian continent as a single united security community. All this overarching and all-encompassing focus is characteristic of the Tianxia, which is all under the heaven model of political thought. The question is now whether these are policies is about cooperation or competition, whether the intentions are benevolent or power-driven. These questions often dominate discussions among observers. This China's new aid and security pact with Solomon Island is the latest case to raise this pertinent question of whether Chinese motives are developmental or a long-term vision-based strategy to replace the United States. Let us hear from the expert for today. It is my privilege to introduce a topic as well as the speaker, Dr. Yiwei Wang. Thank you for coming, sir. It is also my pleasure to introduce him. He is a Jean Monnet Chair Professor as well as Director of Institute of International Affairs and Center for European Union Studies at the Renmin University in Beijing. His main research interests include the Belt and Road Studies, European integration, public diplomacy, Chinese foreign policy, and European Union-China relations. Some of his recent books include The Belt and Road Initiative, What China Will Offer the World in Its Rise, Haishang, Revelations of European Civilization, and China-NATO Studies series. He has attended over 1,000 forums and conferences such as the BRI International Cooperation Forum, Munich Security Conference, Boao Asia Forum, among several others. He is also a frequent guest interviewee of the South China Morning Post, Russia Today, BBC, and other media. Pleasure having you with us, sir. With this, I request Commodore Vijesh Garg to deliver the opening address. Over to you, Commodore Vijesh, sir.
Thank you, Bala. Good afternoon, Dr. Wang from Chennai, and all the distinguished members of C3S, research interns, and all the audience. Bala has touched the topic very nicely. If you recollect, during the Boao Forum Asia Annual Conference, which was held in April 2022, the China's President Xi Jinping delivered a speech, and he proposed a global security initiative called GSI, which is based on principle of indivisible security. In India, we used to call it Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in the parallel lines. Now, this is based on the principle of global security initiative, which advocates a vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security. What it follows philosophy, what I understood is that humanity is an indivisible security community aimed to create a new path to security that features dialogue over confrontation, partnership over alliance, and win-win over zero-sum games. China would like to work, partners be in any country, whether it's a BRICS or a G7 or Asia, anywhere, to operationalize this GSI and bring more stability and positive energy to the world. Now, this speech was very noticeable because it's the first time China has hinted at its readiness to approach, as I see, to global security with Chinese characteristics. She also claimed that it will resolve the global security dilemma by opposing a country's pursuit of own security at the cost of others. The philosophy which I see into this. Now, this vision was reiterated by Chinese Defense Minister at the Shangri-La Dialogue Asia Premier Defense Summit, which just happened in June 2022. It makes clear to us as we see that the GSI builds on a security vision which China has been evolving over past decades, but more into it, we will see what Dr. Wang tells us. On the other hand, the Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed the Global Development Initiative at the 76th session of UN General Assembly and calling upon the international community to prioritize people-centered, innovation-driven, and action-oriented development, inject new impetus into implementation of the United Nations 2030 agenda towards sustainable development growth, SDG as we call it. He also called upon on all partners in all forums to jointly translate the initiative into concrete actions, quote unquote, from his speech, and make sure that no country is left behind. Even during the recently concluded 14th BRICS summit, Xi Jinping announced additional US $1 billion to $3 billion committed to South-South Cooperation Fund of Global Development, besides already committed funds. Though both GDI and GSI, they are different as they respond in different changes in different way. They are designed to address significant challenges emanating from Chinese angle, Chinese philosophy. The COVID-19 pandemic, post-pandemic tensions or the competitions as we see between China and the West, much more after the Ukraine and Russian conflict, and the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development. If you put together, you see there's a linkage and there's differences. These rapidly evolving activities present both internal and external challenges to China. The way in which these challenges and knowledgeable gaps are addressed will not only determine China's internal governance on development issues, but also its external activities and initiatives in the global arena. Both these initiatives, that is GDI and GSI, show China's growing role as a provider of security cum development assistance as the broader impact of its international economic engagement. It has also been the subject of considerable interest both within and outside China when we see the BRI projects, BRI Green projects, various aspects of it. But I like to hear, we all of us like to hear much more from Dr. Wang, who's sitting in Beijing, and tell us how to see this project sitting from Beijing. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Wang. Over to you.
Thank you. Very sorry for our friends in India to wait because of different communication, channel. We are not so much familiar with the Google. We need to use the VPN to access the Google, but Zoom is very popular in China. Talk about Global Development Initiative and Global Security Initiative. There are three backgrounds. First one is China actually achieved the SDG 17 goals ahead of time for 10 years. Now, Europeans just eyes on Russia, Ukraine conflict, and the US target China. So the G7, the Western countries, they want to use the name of the rule-based international order. They want to set rules, particularly in the digital. They are busy now, the inflation, the food crisis, and divided politics, and the many challenges. They never mention about sustainable development goals. Europeans actually very frequently before, but now busy. So China, India, BRICS countries, our responsibility, I think we take the development as the key because we are developing countries. So development actually is to solve all our other problems. When people talk about the development before, advanced economy, think about it, it's developing country. It's not about advanced economy. But now they also need developer. They need infrastructure building. They need welfare system. They need to build more mutually connected network. So development is the common challenges for every country, not just for developing countries. Traditional globalization now is in a puzzle, so-called a paradox. People even jokingly to use so-called security more depends on the US, economically more on the China market, China as a world factory. When China and the US confronted or compete strategically, the many other countries may enforce to take side between so-called the US bloc and also the Belt and Road Initiative. Some people think about that. So including my friends in India, they're also very suspicious or critical to BRI because BRI now 150 countries signed the MOU with Chinese government. It's more bilateral. Even though UN, UNDP, WHO, many international organizations, more than 32, also signed the BRI MOU with Chinese government. And also like UK, 14 advanced economy signed the third-party market cooperation with Chinese government, Minister of Finance particularly, and also have the green financial guidelines. But people still think about BRI is more China-led or China initiative. But the world needs more public goods, not just development, but also security. So how to bridge the gaps? How to achieve the goal of the UN, the UN Charter, security and development? And also how to deal with the traditional and the non-traditional security challenges, like the COVID pandemic, and also climate change. That's the motivation of President Xi last September in the UN Great Assembly to put forward of the Global Development Initiative to share with China open reform experience like people first and development is a key to solve other problems, and also inclusive development, not just a win-win. Make the globalization towards more balanced, sustainable, and for justice. And the developing countries have more saying in the global governance. So international order should towards more according to the people centered, that most of the people, 80% actually lived in developing countries, not in the G7. For instance, even the US-led sanctions to Russia use the General Assembly of the UN, but actually it's not a permanent, it's not the UN Council, Security Council, because Russia has the veto power and China as well. Half of the world population are actually against the sanction, not join the US-led sanctions to Russia, including India. All the BRICS countries, non-alliance of the countries traditionally not join. So the world should not just on the power, GDP, but also should based more on the people-oriented. People matter, people first, and this is human rights for so democratization of the international relations, global governance. So that's, I think, the Global Development Initiative. And also development and security combined together. The West use the so-called resilience, safety, not just security, as an excuse to rebuild the international economic framework, like the US so-called IPEF. So-called the IPEF with decouple with China and exclusive to China. And the other ASEAN Indians concerned, they want to access American market, actually not to respond from the US side. So US think about more strategically, even militarily, security to about any of initiative. So I think that's the background I want to share with you. And please share my PPT because I use a cell phone, cannot do. Okay, thank you. Understanding the global development and security initiative, that's the background I want to share with you. And the next page, please. We will talk about first, what's the GDI and GSI, and why China proposed, and how well these two initiatives be implemented So first, what's the meaning? Next page, please. The meaning of the Global Development Initiative is to focus on the sustainable development. Actually, it's reassurance to the SDG goals of the UN, and also people first, because now like 5G, AI, so it's challenging the traditional man and the robots of the machines relations. So we need to put the people first, not just the traditional financial globalization or capital-driven globalization, just works for the powerful countries and powerful interest groups, and the poor countries, poor, richer. That's the reason of the Trump elected, and so the gap between rich and poor because of the capital-driven. So now we need sustainable, inclusive, and more development for justice is more people-oriented, people-centric. So technology, innovation, and development model should focus on that. So I think that's basically global development initiative. Actually, China also have the 5 initiatives, the Chinese development, also innovation, sustainable, inclusive, innovative, and also balance. And though China experience actually synergies of the strategies with the UNDP, so that's the basically focus on. Next page, please. The 17 goals of the UNDP, SDG goals, the women's power, lift the poverty, hunger, maritime, for all of this. So this actually only 10 years left, 8 years left. So it's a huge challenge. And most of the countries in the world cannot achieve the goal. Whether we designed the goal or we need to remind, actually, this is a common goals for the international community. So China, I think, put forward the Global Development Initiative. It's to remind all the international community we need to still focus on the SDG goals. So the Global Development Initiative is to, under the current situation, to reassure how to achieve the goals, not just in China, in other countries, to combine together joint efforts to do that. So they have the 6 community to state community to development as priority and people-centric and benefits to all, for all, innovation-driven, because traditional consumer of the labors and resources is non-sustainable, and harmonies between man and nature, that environment protection and neutrality in the CO2 emission, and also not just focus on the procedures, but also results. Next, please. And then not just development, security combined development, like the traditional and the non-traditional security challenges, Russia, Ukraine conflicts, the traditional one, but also the non-traditional one, climate change and COVID, and the food safety or security. So the security, the West, particularly for the U.S. security is, my security is on the base of your not security. You should serve for the U.S. security. So they build so many allies, even enforce or maybe persuade India to join the U.S. alliance. Actually, India has a very long tradition of the non-alliance, independent foreign policy, security policy, and it also let South Korea to join the Indo-Pacific. Actually, China, U.S. South Korea alliance is more targeted to North Korea, but now they're globalized, Indo-Pacific alliance, and so we want to share the burdens of the U.S. So that the global security initiative, particularly focus on the common security. Actually, traditional Helsinki spirit in Europe, that NATO make the consensus with Russia, and that the security should be indivisible. And Finland, Sweden now want to join the NATO, actually against that treaty. So that makes Russia very angry about that. Even NATO, no inch of the enlargement and expansion, but now 30 countries, even more, to contain Russia. So that's the reason why the European security in a huge challenge. So we need to have the new security concept, that the common security, cooperative security, sustainable security, indivisible security. Actually, that's the future of our international community. So we learned from the World War I, World War II, and the Cold War. So security and development should combine together. So next, please. So the GSI, more security initiative, is focused on the community to the as a new concept of the security. SCO, actually, now India also the member, is a new type of great power relations, new security concept. Actually, including like the Afghanistan, I think China, India, and other neighbors should work together to keep the security. The NATO and the US withdraw the troops from Afghanistan over there. And then there's a big problem that now earthquakes, even in Afghanistan, is a humanitarian crisis. And second, to community to sovereignty respect. The European model is transfer the sovereignty, and the US alliance model is not equal and not respect the sovereignty, like US-Japan alliance, actually against Japanese people, like in many islands and many areas, they suffered a lot of the US Army. They have the actually special rights there. So respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all the countries. In this regard, not just you asked Russia, but also actually US invade Iraq and Afghanistan, including Yugoslavia, is also against the UN Charter. Thirdly, to state the community to the abiding the purpose and the principles of UN Charter and international law to against the Cold War mentality. State community to take the legal security concepts of all the countries seriously. So every country have your concerns, security concerns. You should respect each other, not just on the base of one strong side concerns at the cost of other countries. State community to the peaceful resolution differences. For instance, we need to have the China is negotiation with ASEAN members about a code of conduct in the South China Sea to solve the territory disputes peacefully, use peaceful negotiation, and also state community to the maintaining security in both traditional and non-traditional areas. So that kind of the principles actually, we China and India are the key founder. Bangladesh, Myanmar are together of the peaceful 5 principles of the peaceful coexistence. Actually, we need to still uphold that kind of spirit. So next page, please. So actually, the 2 wings of the initiative in Chinese understanding is contribute to the community with a shared future for mankind. Actually, also endorsed in many resolutions of the United Nations. And then, so first, what's the meaning? And second, why China proposal that kind? Second, please. Second page, please. So the purpose of that proposal actually is a Chinese and maybe Indian and other countries' traditional cultures mindset. This is a Chinese character of the Ren people, the human beings, like left and right foot, right? You see. So you should work together. So security and development, and then the world to be sustainable. So that kind of always combined together. So that's a traditional. I think it's a traditional culture. And second, why China proposal is because of the world need. The world is very uncertain. Next, please. So it's so many challenges. Even people joke the only certainty for today's world is uncertainty. So we need both concern about the security and the economic challenges. And the global south, global north should work together to deal with, like climate change and COVID. It doesn't matter which rich or poor countries, poor people or rich people. So now I think the UN need to work more efficient in dealing with the common challenges of how human beings are facing. And more uncertain the challenges and the risks. So now the world come to the risk society, even people mentioned about that. So next, please. So that's actually more and more challenges we are facing. We need to work together, not just focus on win-win economic globalization, but also take security challenges combined with development challenges as well. And you need to build the capacity to deal with the security. So that's the development is the key to solve this, and the security is the guarantee that the development can be sustainable and balanced. And so that's the second reason. And the next, please. The third reason, I think, for China proposal is how to reach the consensus between advanced economy, developing country economy, emerging new economies. And as we mentioned, both the security and the development initiative is more people first, people oriented, not just the GDP, not just the power oriented. So that's very, very important because of the challenges to everybody. It's not just because you are rich or you are poor. So that kind of actually is the real concern of the human rights. So we need united. Second, please, the next page, please. Particularly after the Ukraine conflicts, so the human beings all suffering the food crisis, inflation, and economic recession even. How to assist the weak countries, weak people, even including in Europe, refugee crisis happened again. India's neighbor, Sri Lanka, now even changed the government because of the food or other inflation challenges. After 3 years of the COVID, so many countries like Sri Lanka rely on the tourists, but no so many tourists, particularly from China. So it's the economy suffered a lot. Many European countries as well. Montenegro, for instance, I visit. There are more than 20% of the GDP comes from the tourist so tax, and now Central Asian countries, because of the conflict in Ukraine, millions of the Central Asian countries, the workers cannot work in Russia, so they come back and then very, very young, but without jobs. So they cannot send the US dollars income to their country. More than 20% for Tajikistan, many Uzbekistan, from the migrant workers now cannot have anymore, and also the jobless. So it's a huge challenge in the Central Asia as well. So how to deal with this? We need to find actually new investment to deal with the development and security challenges. So digital infrastructure building, mutual connectivity, actually synergies of the strategies. So every country facing, but all human beings also facing how to deal with this more efficient, actually coordinate. So that's basically the reason. And the next, please. So, but the world also is not the linear evolution. So everybody say that the resilience is a keyword for safety, not just security. So we need to change our mindset about our future. It's not necessary that the world changed like the traditional from advanced to so-called the pre-modern, modern, post-modern. It's not that case anymore. So now everybody, including the European Union, not normative power provoke, but also want to be player, not just the playing field of the geopolitics. So geopolitics risks popular in Europe, in the world. So how to manage the crisis? How to actually, we said, to settle the disputes with the confidence building measures, including China and India, because we have a border conflict. So I think that's basically from bilateral to regional and then to global. So UN Secretary General Guterres, the highlights and the echo of the global development and security initiative. This is actually UN goals. So it's not just a China initiative. Actually, BRI also, we have synergies with the UN strategies, including UNDP SDG goals. Okay, that's second. I think why we put proposal that. In the third part, I would like to share next page, please. How to do that? How to make the GDI and the GSI implemented. Next, please. So I think how to do that. Firstly, we should narrow the gap between the